My pick to win it all. I think the team to beat in the NFL this postseason is the Philadelphia Eagles. They are the most well-rounded team in the NFL. I think that's going to lead them to hoisting this year's Lombardi Trophy. Like, look at it. Look at what they do well. Because in the playoffs, right, it's about winning in different ways. Because teams try to take away your A game. If they do that, well, can you win with B, C, or D? The Eagles can do that. They are led by their rushing attack, led by the best running back in the NFL in Saquon Barkley. Now, there's no debate about that. He sets the tone. This is really how the Eagles get going here, is through the rushing attack. They're second in the NFL in terms of rushing yards per game. Saquon Barkley himself is leading the NFL in rushing yards. Eclipsed 2,000 this season. He's been outstanding. He has set the tone this season for the Eagles. So the Eagles are an elite running team, but they can also pass the ball at a really high level. And they don't do it a lot, but it doesn't mean they can't do it. Think about it, right? Like, there's only one football, and there's only, 60-something plays you get in a game? You can't run the ball at an elite level and also then pass the ball 40 times a game. There's not enough plays to go around. So the Eagles are doing what every good team does. Lean into what they do well. They run the ball behind the best running back in the NFL and one of the best offensive lines in the league. They run the ball because they can run it down every team's throat. And then when they have to, they can pass the football. Go watch a Steelers game from a few weeks ago. Rushing attack was mitigated. Saquon Barkley had one of the lowest outings and one of the worst games of the season. And what did Jalen Hurts do? Throw for almost 300 yards and total 3 touchdowns. He doesn't do it often, but when he's asked to do it, Jalen Hurts can pass the football at a really efficient level. Also helps when you have, one of, you could argue, maybe the best wide receiver duo in the NFL, and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. The Eagles are deadly passing the ball when they have to, just like they're elite at rushing the football. They are very well-rounded and balanced on offense, but they don't just win games solely on their offense. They have an elite defense. This defense is elite on all 3 levels. Defensive line, linebacker, secondary. They are number 2 when it comes to points per game allowed. Number 1 when it comes to yards per game allowed. They're the best pass defense in all of the league. So when you look around, like, the Eagles are the most well-rounded team in the league. They do so many things well. They take the ball away at a really high level. They had 26 takeaways this year. They do so many things well where they can beat you in so many different aspects. They can beat you by running the ball. They can beat you by passing the ball. They can beat you by playing good defense. They can win shootouts. They can win low-scoring games. They can win, high-flying games. They can win grinded-out physical games. When you have that many different ways to win, that, to me, makes Philly the most dangerous team. That, to me, makes Philly the team to beat. Because there's no one way to stop them. There's no one way to beat them. They have 3 different pitches they can throw to you if this was baseball, where most teams have 1, maybe 2. They are deep. They are balanced. They're well-rounded. I think, for me, the Eagles are winning the Super Bowl this year. I think they're going into Detroit, beating the Lions in the NFC title game, and going to the Super Bowl and winning. Nick Sirianni, after Week 18, highlighted why this team's been able to win 14 games and why they are so well-rounded.
It's taken a lot of people to win 14 games. There's been a lot of contributions from a lot of different people. Had some bumps and bruises along the way, and a lot of guys have stepped in and played. When you win 14 games, it takes everybody.
They have great depth. They're not thin. They're deep. So everything on the field, to me, suggests the Eagles are winning the Super Bowl this year. But then you also look at the path. Now look at the playoff bracket, how it's seeded and their road. They actually get a good break here going as the 2 seed. Here's what I mean by that. So number 1, they get the Packers coming to town. I think that's a good matchup for Philly. Packers, to me, are paper tigers. They beat no good teams this year. They're not playing good football right now whatsoever going into the playoffs. I think Philly rolls. And when you look at now who they would possibly play in round number 2, let's assume the Buccaneers at home beat the Commanders. That means that in round number 2, you'd have the Eagles play the Buccaneers, and if the Vikings can beat the Rams, which I think they can, you have a rematch of the Vikings and the Lions in the divisional round. I know Minnesota today did not look good whatsoever. Many of you, I'm sure, think they got exposed, want to call them frauds, whatever. I still think Minnesota is a top 3 team in the NFC. I still think they're a Super Bowl contender. When you look at the NFC playoff field, I think there are 3 elite teams. Lions, Vikings, Eagles, in no order. If you look at the Eagles here, and again, assuming the Buccaneers win and take down Jaden Daniels and the Commanders, you have the Eagles then playing one of those elite teams, just because then they'd meet them in the NFC title game, where the Lions or Vikings have to then go through 2 elite teams. If they play each other, then assuming, the Eagles can beat the Buccaneers, which I think they will, then they have to play the Eagles after that. The road for Philly as the 2 seed is actually easier than it is the 1 seed, again, assuming you don't see crazy upsets from the 6 or the 7 seed. The road is better and easier for Philly. They don't have to play 1 elite team versus the Lions and the Vikings probably have to play 2. That's tough. So the bracket's gone Philly's way. The roster, I think, has gone Philly's way. I think, to me, they are beating the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. The Chiefs, I think, are coming out of the AFC. I don't think right now the Bills, talent-wise, are ready to beat Kansas City. I don't think the Ravens are coached well enough to beat Kansas City in the playoffs. So I think for the 3rd year in a row, the Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. I think, though, as we get a rematch from 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, I think the Eagles are right now well-equipped to beat them, to get their revenge. Because, again, they have so many different punches they can throw your way they didn't have even 2 years ago. The run game this year is better than it was 2 years ago. The defense this year is better than it was 2 years ago. To me, the Eagles are well-rounded. They're deep. They're playing well. The path in the postseason is a little bit easier. The Eagles, to me, are the team to beat in the NFL. They are winning the Super Bowl this year.